Imagine. Imagine if you could follow a single drop of water on a 900-mile journey downstream. At 11,000 feet, Lake Agnes is the beginning of it all. All life in the Great Plains rely on the snow-capped mountains for water. Water makes its way into a rocky bottom mountain stream dependent on snowmelt for most of its flow. Although stream flow is supplemented by groundwater and precipitation, most of the water in the Platte originates from snowmelt. As the water makes its way down the mountain streams into Wyoming, it eventually hits a series of dams and reservoirs. Seminole Reservoir is the first place the North Platte River is held in the North Platte Irrigation Project. The headwaters of the North Platte River are fed through this reservoir. Water makes this journey annually as winter snowpack melts from the high reaches of the mountains and flows into streams and tributaries that eventually form the North and South Platte Rivers. The Cordis Dam regulates the flow of the North Platte for downstream irrigation. Generating 160 million kilowatt hours of hydropower annually, and providing flood protection as the water moves through Wyoming and over the state line gauge, which is responsible for monitoring water flows from Wyoming into Nebraska. The last of the North Platte water forms into a braided river in western Nebraska and provides habitat for wildlife species such as the sandhill cranes. The Platte provides irrigation for agriculture uses, but the high demands upstream will often leave the river dry in the late summer. The river flow is important to keeping the aquifer full and to run multiple wells. Lincoln's water comes from well fields in an aquifer along the Platte River. It makes its way into the city where it supplies water to over 80,000 consumers daily. But with Lincoln growing at a steady 1% each year, so does our demand for food and water. Much of the energy that goes into bringing food to plate comes from burning fossil fuels. Luckily, local businesses like TCW have been teaming up with communities in order to take their part in building a more sustainable future. Joe Delgado and his family have owned TCW Construction and Husker Concrete since 1977. His family migrated from the center of Mexico to Lincoln in the 1920s.
And they migrated this way for, I guess, a better life. And my grandfather went to work with the Burlington Northern Railroad, and my grandmother stayed at home raising 15, 16 kids, and myself and several other cousins and nephews. Well, somebody contacted us when we tore the house down over here where Community Crops is, and it was a bare piece of property. And so we just put a spigot off from our main water supply, and that allows them to water all the plants, and it's just kind of cool to drive by all the time and see them planting or cleaning up or harvesting the crops that they're doing. So it's just a win-win for everybody. Basically, don't charge for anything. I mean, it's just not. They don't really use all that much. And it's we can help somebody get some good vegetables, crops out of there, and very little water or demand, we just think it's feel good about it.
In the first Nell Street garden is a very diverse garden. There are people from all over the world, from Iraq, Iran, Burma, Ivory Coast, Africa.
Wow.
I'm from India. I moved to the US maybe close to 4 years now.
Gautam works for the state of Nebraska as a programmer and is the garden coordinator at the First and L location in the south of Lincoln. He joined Community Crops as it was his dream to become a farmer in India, but was impossible due to their water shortage and drought issues.
I'm gardening for the last 2 seasons, and I've really quite learned a lot about soil, about water conservation, how to water plants efficiently. Community crops is like grow local, eat local, getting people in touch with the earth again.
Community gardens empower communities to grow food through education, experiences, and learning from one another. Unlike Gautam's homeland in India, where abuse of water for agriculture made a change to the climate,
I think this water conservation is really important. Maybe don't try to conserve it just for your generation. Think about 6 generations from now. They need water too.
mountain snows that provide water and fill reservoirs along the Platte and Missouri rivers have been low for several years. Lake McConaughey could reach its lowest level since it first reached peak storage in 1952. In 2012, Nebraska's groundwater, stream flow, and reservoir levels were weakened, and the Platte River was at its lowest.
2012 was our driest and hottest year on record, and so we rapidly moved in the summer months into a pretty severe drought situation. And so by the end of 2012, Nebraska, mostly statewide, was experiencing a very severe drought.
Mandatory water regulations were made, and Nebraska's agriculture suffered.
Droughts have been a normal part of the climate here in Nebraska. We've had droughts in the past, we've had droughts recently, and we're going to have droughts in the future.
Although droughts are unpredictable, there are many ways we can reduce our water consumption. Planting drought-tolerant plants, take faster showers, and eating locally.